Hello, Courage, Confidence, and Connections podcast fans. We are back with a wonderful, wonderful friend of mine and doing a little bit of an interview on Traci Cant. I'm going to put her in the hot seat challenge here, so to speak, even though that's not what I call it. She's going to tell us some things about her life and her business and just explore whatever she wants to talk about regarding that. It's always fun to talk to somebody, and I know her pretty well. So we're just going to have a good time, and we are dressed casual today. It happens to be Friday afternoon on recording time, and we decided to wear hoodies and look all Friday afternoonish. So welcome, Traci.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice. Very
Thank you.
excited.
You excited? Yeah, my apologies. Yeah. That's what happens when you do more recording in one day than you're used to. Anyway, uh, Traci is the owner along with her husband of Ridge Excavation. But I'm interested in finding out and her telling you, our listeners, a little bit more about her personally and how she even fell into being owner of an excavation company. But she's really good at it. So, Traci, welcome again and give us a little bit of insight about you.
Oh gosh, where to begin? Let's see. Uh, I started out, when I was 18, doing a little bit of construction here and there, because who doesn't love slinging nails? And I'd always fallen back to customer service, working in the hospitality industry, bartender, server, things like that. Um, Several years of that going back and forth. I spent some time in a manufacturing industry. I worked for a couple of different trailer manufacturers for, probably 12, 13 years off and on. Um, wow, I'd say probably about 8 years ago, I decided to go back to school though, because, it hurts being on your feet all the time. I started out my career in college as a paralegal student and got my associate's degrees. Decided I was going to go and work for a criminal defense attorney for a little while. And as rewarding as it was, it also had its downfalls. It was really difficult at the end of the day to leave some of that stuff in the office. And so after doing that for about 8 or 9 months, I decided that I wanted to be the Lorax and I would much rather speak for the trees. So, so I enrolled in Portland State University's environmental studies program where I got my bachelor's degree. And then upon graduating, the competition for a job in the environmental sector was so high, especially an entry level position, which was really all I was qualified for at that point. Um, that I ended up just falling back on my serving experience. And then the pandemic hit, and everybody knows how awful COVID was for all sorts of things, but the restaurant industry got hit really hard. And my husband, who I had met while I was going to school at Portland State, has been in construction his whole life. And he said, well, let's just do it. Let's pull the trigger. Now's the time. Let's start a business. And so we took on the daunting task of starting a new business right smack in the middle of COVID.
Wow.
Um, it's I don't know. I think it was probably one of the best things we could have done though, because honestly, more people were working from home at that time. So we were able to get a good jump start on things. Since then, I have taken my environmental background and applied it to septic. Our green excavation is what I like to call it. We try to be as eco-conscious as we possibly can. That if you'd asked me 10 years ago if I'd have been this into septic and things like that, I'd have told you there's no way you'd have caught me dead. But it's not uncommon for me to be elbow deep in the middle of something and not necessarily a septic tank, but but I'm always looking for ways to improve upon the existing systems. Anything I can do to make it a greener scenario for everybody, really. My husband's peeking in at us right now.
I'll be
Tell him
back.
to be careful. We'll put him on camera.
Oh, yep.
I'm gonna go clean up the stuff on this.
Okay. All right.
And so
Sorry about that.
you've got a really variety in your background. I'm curious though. I think we've talked about this before, but tell our audience. I think his whole, oh, excuse me, his whole family has a
Yeah.
little bit of a history in the excavation business. I think that was an interesting story, and let's elaborate on that a little bit.
So he really didn't have a choice. He was pretty much born into it. His dad was an operator, his grandpa was an operator, and so on and so forth. We've got several images of all three of them working together. Actually, it's really quite interesting. I'll have to get you a copy of that one of these days so that you can see what it looks like. Dad and Grandpa Hank worked on the dam over there on, gosh, which one was it? Just outside of Colorado. I'm looking at it right now. It's hanging on the wall. Um, I'm
Uh,
drawing it to a blank. I'm sorry. Camera shy, I guess.
no, no, that's all right. I know Hoover Dam, but that's in Nevada. So
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
a big dam there, though, on the Colorado River. River.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, Max.
Oh,
Oh, and this is
well,
our mascot. This is our my best employee. Max, get down. Off.
they always want to be in the picture, don't they?
She's got to be a part of everything.
Oh, that's great. Maggie the mascot.
There you go, Max. There you go.
So there's a family history on James's side
Mhm.
of construction and excavation, and came he came by birth into this industry. And so you guys met when you were in college
I
up there?
did. Yep, I had started down at Portland State University, and I was living outside of Portland near a little town called Carver, population 2. No, it's probably not small, but it's pretty tiny.
Hmm.
Um, and he happened to come into the to my place of work one day, and we just got to talking, and one thing led to another, and after about 2 years of us giving each other a hard time, he finally decided that I'd be worth taking out, I guess, and I decided the same for him, and we've been pretty much inseparable ever since. I think we're going
Oh,
on a little over 10 years together now.
oh, that's great. Now tell me about how you embrace the culture of what you do you had the construction background,
Mhm.
but the culture of doing the excavation work and running your own business. How did you transition and how did it feel that was a big transition. How did it feel making that transition?
It was really intimidating at first. It
Mhm.
really was. I hate to perpetuate a stereotype, but honestly, it was like trying to join the boys club. Um, it's surprisingly a lot of the skills transferred though from being a bartender and a server to actually doing what I do in this industry. A lot of what I do ends up being the sales side of things. And sorry, my puppy's going nutty. The sales side of things and the logistical side of it all. Um, it's it was a lot of sink or swim for me.
Hmm.
There's there probably are mentors available as far as what I do go. But the cost is outrageous. And I along the way I've made a lot of friends, and I've met a lot of people that have been kind enough to impart their knowledge on me. Were it not for them, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am today. And honestly, my father-in-law probably has been the most impactful of all of them. I would take him with me to just about every site visit that I went the first year that we were in business. And we even have shirts that with our company logo and whatnot on it. It has a little WWDD on the sleeve. It stands for What Would Dad Do?
That's fantastic. What a great story.
You, yeah,
Yeah, that's great and quite a transition for you, but you have embraced it and you're thriving in it. Having worked with you for a while, your creativity comes out, your diligence and your resilience. Your dogged determination is something I can brag about on your behalf because you have it, and it's admirable, very admirable, because in an industry that has been primarily male dominated, you're stepping into a culture and it's like, out of the way, I'm doing this, right?
right, right. I don't really like to. I'm not one to settle for no without exhausting all my options, and I'd like to think that I'm pretty adaptable to an extent. I'm not going to compromise my values or my self-worth to do or be accepted by anything like that. And I really do believe that the quality of a product that a person puts out speaks volumes about them as a person as well.
Mhm.
Um, my husband told me in the very beginning that every contractor is known for something, and being known for quality product is not a bad thing to be known for.
Absolutely not. And, so to kind of move over in the direction of the business, I find it very fascinating. And it takes a lot to learn what is involved in excavation and septic systems, of which you do both. So let's talk excavation first. And well, let me ask, do you get out there and do you drive that big old truck and do any of that stuff?
I only when it's needed, only on occasion. I like to tell people that I'm just the agent. It's my husband James that's the talent. And he'll tell you he's not an artist, but I can walk onto just about any job site and guarantee that he is by the time it's pretty fascinating to watch him work. And really, quite frankly, it might have something to do with why I started dating him in the first place.
Oh yeah, and you don't think of that type of work as artistry, but it takes talent to do what he does. I have no doubt,
Yeah.
no doubt at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from seeing pictures of the work before and after, I think that's speaks for itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for
It-
that.
oh yeah, it truly does. And I find it fascinating that, he gets out. I love the fact you're the agent and he's the talent, but you're also the salesperson, the spokesperson, because I know he's quieter. And you get out there and you make it happen. And in terms of courage, I like to take people that I interview through that courage, confidence connections. What I want to do is ask, what is the most significant part or parts of your journey into business like this or your life, whatever? Where do you find courage has been a real significant thing for you?
Oh gosh, every day. It really does. It's a fight every day, and not necessarily in the traditional sense of the word, but it is a male dominated industry. It is a stereotype and a box that as a woman owner of a construction company, I strive to get out of. Um, a I don't know. It sounds kind of cliche to say, but fear has been a real driving factor for me, and fear of a lot of things. Fear of failure for sure would be the number one because nobody wants to fail at their business. But I don't want to be compartmentalized as, that typical woman owner that's that comes across as gruff and bossy and abrasive. And while I can be all of those things, I'd prefer not to. I prefer to just be me and be heard without having to stand on a box and scream and yell at the same time. Um,
Yeah, and it takes courage to be yourself. I've had that discussion with somebody else today,
yeah.
and it's so easy to compare ourselves to other people, but probably one of the best things about your situation is I haven't seen any other women in this industry. I'm sure there are, but it's not something that you're going to see like what I do professionally with coaching. They're all over the place. And it can be very distracting to figure out, okay, this is how they're doing it. But you do life, if you're really you, you're doing life your way. And that's what you're doing. And it's really good that you do not have a lot of people, women to compare yourself to, you know? It
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Now, confidence. Have you found your confidence growing over time in this industry?
Exponentially, exponentially. Every day I'd say that there's something. And I think the thing behind that is knowledge. Every day I learn something new. I've been fortunate enough to have some excellent instructors along the way as far as my certification and my licensing goes. Um, and I'd like to say that I ask all the questions, but there's a million of them that I'm sure I haven't asked. But what I mean by that is I'm not afraid to ask the dumb questions, if even if it makes me sound silly, at least I know where the answer is, and I might sound silly for a minute, but it's only for a minute because now I know. Um, and that in itself, I think, takes a lot of confidence. The other thing is I hate to bring it back to the focus back to being a woman owner of a construction company, but you have to portray a certain amount of confidence when you go out on the job site, especially if you're bidding against other contractors for larger jobs. If you go onto the job site or you go to a job walk and you don't have the confidence in yourself and your company's abilities, then nobody's going to take you seriously either.
I totally believe that. And being from the South, you know, I'll tell you this much, it would be harder if you were there.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that it would, and I think that you had touched on a point that there's not a lot of other women in the industry, and there's not, and I'd hate to think that if there were, it would cloud people's opinions or influence people's opinions in a negative way. But unfortunately, I do think that is sometimes the case. Um, Women in this industry get a really bad rap, and a lot of them come across as being something more than they are, or try to present that they have more knowledge in a situation than they do. And that's with everybody, men and women both. But unfortunately, women tend to get stuck with that collar more than men do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really interesting that, you know, you doing this, you've embraced the whole theme of my show is courage, confidence, connections. And have you found it difficult to make vital connections, to feel comfortable reaching out to find those clients, find the individuals to help you make that? What kind of experience have you had with making connections that have helped you succeed in this business?
Well, honestly, Janice, you have you have been instrumental in getting me to this point as far as my level of confidence is, and helping to dispel any fears that I might have with reaching out and making connections with people. Um, yes, Maggie. Um, it was a lot more difficult for me in the beginning. It comes back to that confidence in yourself, and knowing that you have the skill set to be able to match somebody else's skill set. It's hard to ask somebody for help with something if you can't bring something to the table to offer them as well. And now that I have a lot more confidence in myself and in my company and in my knowledge of what I do, I feel like I don't have a problem reaching out and talking to a contractor that I've never even met before, and say, hey, I'm Tracy.
Mhm.
What can we do to help each other?
Yeah.
And it's funny. I don't think I mentioned it earlier. For a brief stint in my life, I decided I wanted to be a Mary Kay sales lady. And right. Uh, the most important thing though that I took out of that was every no is another opportunity for a yes. And so I've learned to transfer that over to this as well. So while I got a lot of no's in the beginning, I don't get so many anymore. And I think it's because the no doesn't, it's not a crushing blow like it was in the beginning. They say no, well, then maybe they'll change their mind in the future.
Oh my goodness, Maggie is front and center.
Yes, she is. Silly girl. You didn't know that it was going to be an animal.
Oh, we're
Jack
on
Hannah will be here in just a
Animal
few minutes.
Planet. Oh, she's just a camera hog. What do you say?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. She's got to be in on the action no matter what. Well,
Yeah.
she does go to the job sites, so she is, part of the company and the family.
She is. She is. She goes everywhere with me for sure. Um, she loves meeting new people. Honestly, she does a better job of breaking the ice sometimes than I do.
Oh man. Oh, that's so funny. Well, my last podcast I recorded had a dog in it too. It was a puppy that was being trained and fell asleep in the lap of the person I was interviewing. So it remained quiet, but we had to put it on camera. I'm gonna start turning into everybody that I interview's got to have a pet.
There you go. There you go.
That's great. Well, your story is really fascinating and you do a lot. I mean, you are very good at helping family and you're juggling a lot. And I'd like you to speak to the women that perhaps would see this. It's not easy. I've watched you journey through this and struggle and deal with family stuff, with business stuff. And so I call you super mom. So talk a little bit about that, how maybe you can advise or at least comfort some other women.
Gosh, yeah, there are days. There are days that we currently live on a large piece of property where we've got my husband's parents they have their own house on one side of the property and we have ours on the other side of the property. And so I try to make myself available whenever they need because they absolutely deserve it and are wonderful people. I couldn't imagine life without them. Also in the mix of that is my 8-year-old nephew, Miles. He has been, yeah, he has been with us for a little over 3 years now. Um, and he's such a good boy. He really is. But like any other 8-year-old, he's very demanding of my time and my attention. When he moved in with us, my days went from, your typical 7:30 to 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the evening, and then as a independent business owner, sometimes 8, 9, and even 10 o'clock at night. Now, if I try very hard to keep my days short and be done by 3 o'clock, because he's usually home from school by 3:30. And honestly, he'll probably be coming through the door in just a minute anyway, so you might get a chance to say hello to him as well.
That's
Uh,
great.
it is a hard thing to juggle, and you just have to. I have learned that I have to grant myself some leniency as far as that goes. Um, People are very understanding of the fact that everybody's got lives and everybody's got things that happen. This morning we had a 2-hour late start with the snow, and so my day got pushed 2 hours behind just right then and there. Um, it's but it's okay. It's okay to get frustrated and it's okay. Just you're not doing anything wrong. It's okay. You're doing everything that you should do is what I have to remember anyway.
Yeah, and 8 years old, he's busy and but I've met him and he is delightful. So he is a good young man. Probably will wind up driving that big truck one day.
Oh my goodness, yes. So I'll have to send you a video of him out there helping his Uncle James. We've got a couple of videos of him on the fender of the she's just
Oh,
an assistant on the fender of the backhoe. There, gosh, it wasn't that long ago that he was sitting on his Uncle James' lap in the excavator, and Uncle James was showing him how to run everything, and took his hands off of Miles' hands and asked him if he thought he could operate the machine by himself. And Miles says, "Sure, I can." And I'll be darned if he's not out there digging holes and helping Uncle James get stuff done. It wasn't too long ago we were stuck in traffic and he was real bored and he says, "Aunt Ray, I'm bored. What do I do?" So I handed him a notepad and a pen, and he drew out a fantastic septic system for us, like the full site plan. You could almost turn it into the county. It was such a good job.
oh
So,
my
yeah.
goodness. Well, we're employing the dog, the nephew, and
Yep. Yep. We believe in child labor around here for sure. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm
absolutely.
just kidding.
Well, truthfully, so many kids love to help and they want to know and understand and learn by, they're hanging around you and that talent. Well, you paint. So, you're an artist. So by some default, he's caught that bug. So tell me a couple minutes of about your painting. You used to do it as a business, but now you've got too many balls juggling in the air. So tell me about
Yeah.
the painting.
Oh gosh. I did not start painting until just, I'd say 6 or 7 years ago, and it was kind of a surprise. A girlfriend of mine had been trying to get me to go with her to one of those paint nights, the paint and sip things that they do at some of the local bars. And after many, many turned down invitations, I finally agreed to go to one and just fell in love with it. I cannot draw to save my soul. I couldn't draw my way out of a paper bag if I needed to, but if you put a paintbrush in my hand, it turns out that I actually have a little bit of skill there. I've tried a couple of different mediums, oil, acrylic, and watercolor. Watercolor is by far my favorite.
Very
Just
cool.
something about that. It's very whimsical, I guess, and I just really appreciate that part of it. Nice.
Oh, that's great. And
Um,
as our listeners can hear, this this lady has it going on over here and over there and everywhere, and she's training that dog that keeps Maggie keeps getting in the picture. She's only 7.5 months old. She's going to be a big girl, and in
yes.
the process of juggling business and family, she's doing her dog training. So I'm never surprised when we talk to hear a new story, and I've had the chance to meet Maggie too, and she is a handful. She's fun. She's very, very fun. She's going to be your protector on the job site.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
Um, you see all those videos online about the Belgian Malinois, and everybody calls them alligators, and I understand now why they call them alligators.
my God.
Maggie is a cross between a Dutch Shepherd and a Belgian Malinois, and she's a little bit more independent, I would say, than your Mallies are, but definitely full of it. Definitely full of it. I have a hard time calling her a dog. She's a cross between a dog and a koala and a kangaroo and and a little bit of something else too, for sure.
Yeah, I can believe that. So we're going to wrap it up. And what I wanted to do was give you a chance to say anything else, be it personal or business. Just take a couple minutes and anything we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about before we wrap it up. Oh,
Um,
Maggie wants to say something.
Yes, Maggie has something to say with her ball in her mouth. Get down. Oh, just be kind to yourself. I would say definitely be kind to yourself. Allow yourself the mistakes that you would allow somebody else to make. We're all human. Uh, Everybody takes on more than they should or thinks that they've taken on more than they should, but really if you just give yourself some time to transition, it'll all work itself out in the end. I Gosh, I just don't know what else to say other than just love yourself, love yourself and let yourself make a couple mistakes because goodness knows I do.
Well, it's like I've said before, if you're not if you're making mistakes, it only proves that you're human.
Yes.
And we're all going to make those, but the what I've learned from my mistakes, that's profound. That is, and of course, you've read some of my work, so I talk about those a lot and I get to laugh at myself and you laugh at yourself, so that's healthy. That is healthy. We have to laugh at ourselves. But I'm going to wrap this up. But Traci Cant with High Ridge Excavations, and they do all kinds of stuff. Her contact information will be following, and this will be on multiple social media outlets as well as on YouTube in the near future. That will be announced. Keep an ear out and enjoy this, and please share it. And let's applaud our women in construction. I got to tell you. But thank you for joining Courage, Confidence, Connections podcast. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye
Thank you,
bye for
Jenny.
now.
Bye-bye.